Hello dear students, I am Sushant Kumarat from Subarnapur. I am a biology student, biology honor student. Now I will study about the syllabus of PHARM in 2020 that contain part 1 and part 2. Part 1 contain this chapter. First is pharmaceuticals first, that contains 75 mark in theory and 100 mark in practical. Pharmaceuticals chemistry 1, that contain 75 mark in theory and 75 mark in practical. Then pharmacognosy 75 mark in theory and 75 mark in practical. Then biochemistry and clinical pathology, that contain 50 mark in theory and 75 mark in practical. And last and human anatomy and physiology, that contains 75 mark in theory and 50 mark in practical. And last is health educations and community, that is the last in part 1. Health educations and community, that contain only 50 mark in your theory part. In your theory part, that contain 50 mark only your theory part, but not in practical, not mark in practical. Next, part 2 is pharmaceuticals second, that 75 mark in theory and 100 mark in practical. Then pharmaceuticals chemistry second, in 100 mark in theory and 75 mark in practical. Pharmacology and toxicology, that contains 75 mark in theory and 50 mark in practical. Pharmaceuticals jurisprudence, that contain 50 mark in theory and not content in practical, not content mark in practical. Drugstore and business management, that is the most important chapter in your PHARM, that contains 75% mark in theory. And hospital and clinical pharmacy, that is also most important part, that contains 75% 75 mark in theory and 50 mark in practical. Last, it is the last video and first video also, and that video and other video contain part 3 and part 4, that is your syllabus also. तो मु समस्त को कहबा